Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. I rise to take note of an answer given by Senator Abetz representing the Prime Minister. Mr Acting Deputy President, the Greens want to see, as do all people, an end to the atrocities being carried out in Iraq and Syria. We want to see an end to the killings, to the beheadings, to the torture that is going on. We want to support an inclusive government in Iraq, which is the only hope of actually securing a long-term peace for the people there and a sustainable life for them. The question then is the current engagement of the Abbott government in helping to move arms into northern Iraq the best way of securing that outcome? Is it in the national interest for Australia to be involved in that military activity? And will that military activity actually help to secure a unified Iraq? We have a situation where the current government, led by Prime Minister al-Maliki, has not been inclusive. In fact, his government has secured the spoils of victory for the Shias, which has led to a hardening of tension with the Sunnis. And it is not surprising, therefore, that you see the Sunnis going to the Islamic State, or at least not fighting as the Islamic State comes through Sunni-dominated areas of Iraq. But for the Prime Minister to say you can't stand by and watch these atrocities and not move in, well, we have been standing by and watching the atrocities. From 2005 to 2007, when Iraq teetered on the brink of sectarian civil war, Shia militias ran death squads that targeted the Sunnis. They were accused of ethnic cleansing, driving members of the rival sect out of entire suburbs of Baghdad and other cities. At exactly the same time, the Sunnis, who formed the backbone of an insurgency, blew up Shia shrines and carried out a campaign of violence against Shiites. They are the tensions in Iraq. The question I asked today went specifically to that point. It was saying, given that the government of al-Maliki is fighting against alongside Shia militias who have been accused of all these crimes, aren't we in the position of actually providing armaments to Shia militias who, if we get an inclusive government in Iraq, will then turn those weapons against that inclusive government for daring to include in the government the Sunnis? This is the situation. That's why you have to think this through. If you want an inclusive government, are you making it worse? Are you actually hardening the resolve of the Islamic State and the Sunnis against an inclusive government? Are you actually going to have more young jihadists around the world seeing a Western alliance coming into Iraq and therefore encouraging the situation to get worse with more jihadists wanting to come in? That's why the Greens have said, A, we have to be looking at diplomatic solutions and saying to the Iraqi government, the new one about to come in, you must be inclusive. Secondly, we've said in relation to the Turkish border that it's really important that that border is closed. As an expert has said, if it's closed, it'll cut three things: funding, an entrance for the foreign fighters, and links to Europe, which they're trying to open. And if those plans are destroyed, they could open another gate to Lebanon. But the point is, we need to be talking to Turkey about closing the borders. We need to be talking to the new Iraqi government about making sure it is inclusive. We need to be taking these actions. But just saying arming one side of a conflict where the sectarian violence has gone on for hundreds of years, how is that going to lead to peace? And the fact that al-Maliki has described what has gone on in Iraq as the Second Kabbalah, which was celebrating a battle of 680 AD, shows you just over how many centuries and how deep this sectarian violence and hatred is. And how are we going to get to a long-term peace in Iraq by actually not thinking this through and not pursuing the opportunity of a new government in Iraq, a new inclusive government in Iraq, and recognising that atrocities have occurred on both sides, from the Shias and the Sunnis.